Okay, hi everybody. This is work group device management meeting for August 5th, 2025. Let me display the agenda. Okay, so a few things to talk about. One is 134, wrapping up. I wanted to make an ask, are there any outstanding PRs that need attention? There were a few docs PRs I approved yesterday from the technical review standpoint, but there might be one or two more I need to look at. And I think there's some blog PRs maybe out there, but there were a couple of scale test ones, but I think there's nothing blocking the release. And so just wanted to put the call out here. And then, so if you have any, please just go ahead and put them in the agenda and tag whoever you think needs to review it. And we'll try and get that done today. Then I just wanted to say, other than that, amazing work, everybody. Lots of people doing a lot of work. We did a ton of stuff. We had to defer one of our caps, but that's pretty incredible that out of all these caps, only one got deferred. And some of them are pretty meaty. So awesome work. Thank you. But now we move into the next one and we've got plenty more work to do. So anybody else have any comments on that or thoughts? We can move on otherwise. Okay, easy. All right, last one. Agenda item 135, planning. It's time to start planning. So from my point of view, super important that we get this alpha cap, see if we can get it to beta, which is very fast to do it in one alpha cycle. And so in order to make that feasible, I'd like to make a call to the community about like, hey, what are all of the things, what do you need to build the confidence that we can make that go to beta? And so the things I can think of is, like, let's take any extended resource tests that we have, make sure they run in a mixed cluster mode, successfully, like above and beyond the ones we have for this specific feature. I'm saying that this existing extended resource tests be run in a way that utilizes this feature in a mixed cluster mode, and additional scale testing for this feature in particular, because it does end up with an additional write to the API server. So there's some concerns about that. Anything else folks can think of. I did hear from Kevin. He's not here today, Clues, and he I think Alay is here. Yeah, he suggested, Alay, you may be able to help out to provide some extra muscle to get this to beta. So you, who is the author of it, YU, will be here, will be also available to work on it. So anybody else who can chip in, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I can definitely help out.
Okay.
I actually had a relevant topic. I see scale in there. I wanted to give an update about the scale test tasks and where it is going and how do we kind of manage that going forward. But I think I'll add it to the agenda last. I'll let Kevin go first.
Okay. So as far as 135 planning, the other items that I'm thinking of is getting the resource slice mixins in. There's something we call reserved for workload. And then I have a new one, of course, which isn't really new. It's kind of like binding conditions, but maybe not just binding conditions, but it's kind of combining a few things. I'm still working on that. I don't really want to get into the details of it right now, but those are, I think there might be some changes needed to existing caps or maybe a new cap in order to support this flow. There's a discussion, if anybody's really curious, on the binding conditions issue in the enhancements repo, there's a discussion of some of this. So if anybody else has things that they need, then probably next meeting, we'll do, I'll put together a slide similar to what I did for 134, 135 planning in the, pre 134 cycle. I'll take that same deck, that same slide, and I'll dupe it and I'll move it to make it 135, 136, and kind of update it for all the advancements and any new things on it. And then we can go over this 135 planning in more detail at that time. So if there's anything that you want, either reach out to me or put it in this agenda item, and I'll try and go back here and look at this when I put that slide together. And then next time we can, if you have something you want to discuss in detail, that would be a good time to do it is next time. Any other things on 135 planning from anybody else? Sergey.
For cap for device health, we will probably continue from alpha to beta to represent the device health and the pod status, so we can build it into pod failure device policy for job sets and things like that, so we can expose it to customers. But my question was, do you want to do something to express this device health in the resource slices? Because right now, the situation is like we wanted to delete resource slices. We decided that deletion is dangerous operation. And then we wanted to taint it, and tainting is for different purposes. So I'm curious if you want to continue this conversation, like get it in 135.
I think we should talk about it. I think there's I was looking here, maybe it's not in here yet. I think we do have an enhancement there issue for that, so I will add that too. Yeah, let's at least.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing cap for that, because we have a cap for pod representation of unhealthy device in the pod status, but nothing about resource slices. Because I thought that it will be part of official API.
Okay, yeah, I think I might have an enhancement issue, but no cap yet, like pre-cap. But I might not even have that. But yeah, we've talked about it a bunch of times, so let's yeah, let's see if we can make progress on that as well. Awesome. Kevin?
Yeah, and before the agenda, I have another item. It's not really related to DRA, but I am curious about the SIG scheduling conversation around gang scheduling. And because it feels like DRA does come up a lot here, and I don't know necessarily. I don't think it's owned by DRA, but I know you're involved there also.
I'm involved. So Eric Toon, who has been involved in Kubernetes forever, but hasn't really been involved upstream that much in the last few years. But if you go back if you've been around a while, you know Eric Toon. He's working on a proposal that he and probably I don't know, some folks from SIG scheduling, Dominic maybe, or Axum or Matra. I don't know. I'm not sure who's going to be the authors on it and leading it, or Wojciech maybe. I'm not sure, but he's working on something. I think we'll probably see that pretty soon from him, and DRA will be part of that, and then I think partly I think he's going to look at gang scheduling in particular, but we also have like topology aware scheduling that we do in Q. Like there's all of this whole nest of problems around scheduling, auto scaling. I think Wojciech and Eric are going to talk about it in November as well, but hopefully we'll have something at least under discussion, before we get there as part of the 135 cycle, and see what folks think.
Great. No, thank you.
Yeah. Marlo.
Hi, just calling out that there's also a bunch of work regarding native resources and how we're going to handle that in batch as well.
Oh, in the batch SIG too, or
The batch SIG is aware of it, so we're keeping up. I guess there's the SIG and then there's the CNCF group. The CNCF group is aware and keeping up with various things, but there's a lot of schedulers that are not Q that are trying to figure out how to integrate as well.
Right.
Volcano,
yeah, exactly. Well, that's
Volcano.
why absolutely, like that we want to make sure that right. The whole point is propose something, and Eric's looking at some of those things too. Like he's not just focused on Q. Like he's looking at all that, and so the proposal will be based on, there's like many things out there already, and there's existing proposals around gang scheduling. So I think this is more, hey, I think he's trying to bring a lot of these things together, to take the learning from a lot of these things and build a stepwise kind of plan for how we might get where we want to be. But obviously it's a proposal that everybody will be able to influence or be part of, frankly. Awesome. Thank you, Marlo. I wanted to say, but to your point of native resources, so Praveen is continuing work on the CPU driver, and I think Praveen is here probably next meeting. He may want to present his progress there, because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, last week I did a presentation in the SIG node meeting. Not sure if many people were in this meeting were there. So like we were able to use DRAnet and CPU driver and like show that resource can be aligned based on like attributes. Currently I'm working on like basically currently the changes are in my private repo. I'm working with John on like getting them added on to the OSS DRA CPU driver repo. So hopefully this week we should have something in the OSS repo.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Praveen. Okay, I've gabbed on long enough. So Kevin.
Sorry, before you go ahead, John,
Sure.
there's one more thing for 135 planning. I think there is a cap out there for exposing the attributes as probably downward API, so that the KubeVirt workloads are able to consume them. I think that one will be needed from KubeVirt side to drive the DRA feature in KubeVirt to beta. So I think there will be a strong requirement coming in from there. So I'll try to see if I can make progress on that for 135 cycle.
That would be great. Yeah, I think that we talked about some of the it's complex, but what we should drive the requirements based upon like what you need for KubeVirt and not try to solve the world. So if that's like, anyway, we've talked about it before. So yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else on 135 or should we head it to Kevin?
Rita has a question on the thread.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we want to move the admin access feature to GA in 135. I think we called out the GA criteria would be other like device vendors supporting that feature. How confident are we, I guess?
Well, I will put it here and we can have the discussion. That's not a feature Google's making use of at this time. But I would ask, Kevin's not here. So I don't know if Alay has any thoughts on that, or if anybody else is here from NVIDIA, but I know that's something that Kevin really wanted for managing their maintenance workload, daemon sets and stuff. So let's see. Anybody have any comments on that? Anybody making use of that yet? Okay. Well, thanks, Rita. We'll have it on the agenda, and I'll also consult with our GPU team and see if they're interested in making use of it as well. I think that I wonder if we do the thing Sergey brought up, which is publishing device health in the resource slice. That becomes even more relevant because you can run a process. But anyway, we'll think about it. Thank you. All right, Kevin.
Yeah, so this is more like less interesting, but one of the things I'm finding difficult to explain for DRA people is like, there's obviously we have GA structured parameters. Then there's the device vendors need to have a DRA driver. Then there's the process of typically most people use operators for this. And it gets really challenging for me to say, when can somebody in OpenShift use the NVIDIA GPU operator with DRA? And then I've been asked, where is AMD on supporting this? And I'm not really, I don't know what's the best way to kind of track this work.
Yeah, so I can tell you what we are doing. So internally, Morten and I are working with many teams across Google to make sure that they're all aware and that we're so if you look at Antonio, right? Antonio works with our networking team, and so DRANet is one thing. He's working with them to integrate. We have folks that work on our GPU team, our TPU team, various other teams for other upper level parts of our GK stack. So we're kind of it's a pretty active program to make sure that all of those pieces are in place because there are so many pieces. It's not just oh, we released the core API, everything's fine, we have to push for adoption. That's also one of the reasons why the extended resource thing is there. So obviously once we have enough of the pieces in place, then the benefits will drive the adoption, not this sort of push. But people are solving some of these problems in other ways right now, or some of them they're not solving, like the alignment ones, other than run a privileged pod that takes every device on the node kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a push in the beginning because there's so many pieces that have to line up, and then I expect the pull demand and transition to start. So that's what we're doing. I think that
is this all downstream for you though? Because I'm imagining I don't see you all contributing to the NVIDIA GPU operator, right? And I'm looking at what I see.
We've actually talked about that. We're open to that. We've talked to Kevin about, hey, if you need help accelerating it, we can do. We don't actually run the GPU operator. We have our own management. We allow customers to do so in certain cases. So we were more thinking of contributing to the DRA driver itself, but ended up we didn't need to. It progressed fast enough for us. But it's definitely something we're open to. We don't run the operator, so we don't really know how other folks are deploying it other than that. But
that's fair. I guess to me it's getting hard to follow. I guess the best I'm doing is looking at GitHub issues on AMD's GPU operator, trying to see. if they have a
Do you have
roadmap.
anybody from AMD here? No? Okay.
But yeah, and like NVIDIA, I know has a PR up to at least add support for the DRA driver and the GPU operator. It's just difficult to know like when that will happen, and like so that's kind of like to me like that whole alignment has to happen for us to start using DRA, and like we can do our part.
I don't know if Alay has anything to say on this, but I know Kevin. Given that Kevin's not here, I don't want to speak for him, but you know, it's definitely they're working on that. Like that's all in their plans. So I can't give you timelines. It's not my place. But I know that that's something they're working towards.
But yeah, just like thinking beyond like once they're available and there's like new features, like
Right.
how do we know like if these drivers have these features, and like it gets kind of it's like you know a complicated supply chain issue.
Yeah. So
reality.
It's what you're sort of. I think what you're suggesting without saying it maybe is, do we need a way? Do we need a repo or a document, something to be like, okay, here are the known drivers, here are the known, you know, features that they're supporting. Maybe here's a link to their repo, like even just literally a document that to start, that we just start to enumerate all those things. I would find that super helpful.
Yeah, I think that Gaurav linked something with gateway APIs and then having kind of implementations, even something as simple as that. And I guess it would probably be the Kubernetes docs. We would want something like that to kind of have tracking of like vendor provided support for DRA so that people can know.
What do we do for device plugin today? Anything like that?
I actually do not know.
Okay. So Kevin, can I task you with at least getting this started, since you've raised the.
I'm telling myself, yeah, I'll create an issue and yeah, I'll start at least trying to think about that.
Awesome, great idea, thank you.
So I guess, do you want? So there's a device driver. I mean, really, I guess from the DRA side, are you more interested in if there's like a DRA driver, and then if there's an operator or not? That's not really the Kubernetes purview, but like, is it more like you would want it to say like which vendors have at least a DRA driver and implementation, and then that's kind of where we end from Kubernetes side, and then like operators and other stuff are different?
I think that's fine. I mean, if it's a document or an issue, we can put whatever we want in it for now. And then as far as what goes, I don't know if it's been a long time. I remember years ago in the official Kubernetes documentation, at one point we had a list of like, I don't remember if it was like installers or something. And it was sort of like became, you know, whenever the project prints a list of third-party things, it's like gets controversial and ugly really fast. So I don't know if we want to do that, but like let's start with at least, you know, we can put anything we want in an issue. Let's an issue or a doc. Let's just start enumerating it, and then we can work with the docs team to figure out what the right and appropriate thing for the project is. Gaurav?
So another way in which I think this can be helpful is, for example, what Gateway API does is that if you want to include some new feature into the API, then you need at least 2 vendors who will be implementing that new feature, because otherwise if we add something to the API and no one's actually using it, then it doesn't make sense. So this is another way in which you can track, okay, this vendor will be implementing or making use of this API, which is why we actually want to make progress with that API. So even starting out with simple things like just having a list of vendors which support DRA and what features they support, I think that should be helpful. And after that, I think you can make it as complex as you want it to be, but just having a list, I think, is a good start.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
looking quickly at your gateway implementation, one thing you have, which is another thing I kind of wanted to touch on, was you talked about conformance testing. And I don't know, have we had a discussion in DRA of like a set of conformance tests that like
So Laura's been thinking about that, some I know, but nothing's formally proposed at this point. But from the DRA perspective, right, it's like you can, you run this, you can, it's a gRPC API like that, like the kubelet to gRPC API is really otherwise it's just, I don't even know what it would mean. We have conformance tests for resource slice and resource claim APIs already. And so what does driver conformance mean? I guess it means it meets the gRPC API expectations. So is there something beyond that?
Well, I mean, there is, I think Rita just mentioned there's a separate thread going on in the working group AI conformance saying like, you must have DRA support, but then also like device drivers come in a role here. And so I am wondering like, how do we know if device drivers they're actually certified and we can actually expect them to work? So I don't necessarily know like how, like it gets very challenging really quick. And I agree with you. But I am just trying to even think about like, as we add new features for DRA, it's difficult for like me to track, like, when does, obviously this is a bad example, but like when will partitionable devices be supported in the DRA driver for NVIDIA or AMD? And how are we supposed to kind of follow that?
So the thing is, so here's why it's a little, I see it a little differently. So the resource slice API is a set of capabilities. And vendors will use the ones that are appropriate for their devices. And so it's really completely up to the vendor whether they have even a use case for partitionable, right? If you're, they just might not have any need for it. But NVIDIA we know does because NVIDIA wanted it, and Kevin was heavily involved in designing it. But there are other features that just individual vendors might not need at all. So saying it's supported by some vendor, there are things that the expectations we have. So in particular, we expect the PCIe root to be published. There's probably going to be 2 or 3 more other similar attributes that we expect to be published. Now, there may be devices that they're irrelevant to, and then, again, right, it becomes there's no point, we can't require people to publish something that's irrelevant to them. But like, when relevant, you should be publishing these. So that is something we could test. So yeah, maybe I'm certainly open to the idea of like coming up with a list of criteria or a way to categorize how the level of support of any given driver. We could say, for example, supports shared resource claims shared between containers. That's like one, right? That's one mode of sharing, and then supports what we're doing with consumable capacity, which is devices shared between requests, resource claim device requests. That's another level of sharing, that's sort of above and beyond standard expectations. So we could probably come up with a list like that of features that are relevant and at least have they may not support it because their underlying device doesn't support it, and that's fine. TPUs can't be shared, right? So I'm never going to support, unless some new TPU technology comes out, I'm never going to support sharing the same TPU in that way that a GPU is. But we at least can have a list of like, this is what each driver supports.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that makes sense. And yeah, it's a fun problem.
Okay.
I believe Rita, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on like and maybe we should take this to the AI conformance working group call. Because I think there's a lot of musts that are DRA related, and I do personally feel like the extended resource request is an important feature to make sure it's backward compatible, especially for people who are running older Kubernetes clusters, right? So I don't feel confident that everyone should move to DRA until that feature is at least beta and enabled by default.
So our planning is centered around that. That's why I'm pushing so hard for that. We won't be advising our customers to move to DRA until that's available by default.
Right. So that pretty much means like, if that's a must, then nobody is AI conform.
Okay, fair. Like, let's bring it to that call.
Yeah. I think again, I already added this to the doc, and I just want to I piggyback on what Kevin's saying, because I think what this group recommends is also really important, because this is the group that's implementing DRA, right? And so if we say, in our opinion, we shouldn't say that's a must have until at least 135, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm planning on going to that call on Thursday, but
yeah,
I do. I think that there's definitely a lot more discussion on that conformance one, but it was getting me thinking about like what does it mean if a device driver is compliant with DRA? And it's more like I'm thinking just like how do we know where vendors are in their DRA journey and knowing like what's fully supported, because like we'll have to, at least from my end, we'll have to know and follow all these different accelerators and know where they are. And that's kind of where I'm starting it, is just finding it hard to explain it to my PMs because I am having a hard time finding that information. But I will at least start a conversation with SIGDocs about what we could possibly do to at least mention like device vendor support for DRA. Maybe we won't be able to, but we probably would want somewhere for that information. I know it would be helpful for me to point to other people like,
maybe
hey, yeah, this is where DRA.
If the Kubernetes project can't do it, right? Maybe the CNCF can do it, especially if, all the projects, there will be both open source and closed source drivers, I'm sure, but this is a problem they've solved, I suspect. So we can always go to CNCF and ask for their help.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Good topic. And we have Alay.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update of where we are with the scale test. So the issue that is linked here was specifically for the scale testing of structured parameters. I think we have discussed that in the last meeting in depth of what was done. So just to recap, we had a 100-node test on Azure at that time, and then work was pending for GKE. We were not able to promote this to the 5,000 node test that most of the other core Kubernetes features run on. So we made a call using the simulation testing. But now that the release is done, I would still want to go ahead and promote these jobs to 5,000 node cluster. And then the kind of long-term thinking on this is that as new features graduate from alpha to beta or beta to GA, I think John has a exhaustive list here that are on track for such a graduation. I think there will be a requirement to scale test these features as well. So I think we really need to push for the 5000 node structure parameter test to be stabilize, and then continue iterating on it to, add whatever new feature is going on from alpha to beta or beta to GA. At least we have a plan on scale testing that. If it is not required, we can discuss why it is not required and opt out of it. But at the bare minimum, I think we should go ahead and have that discussion. I wanted to raise this point with folks here and see how do folks feel about it.
Jack?
Yeah, I just want to add a super annoying point that we actually aren't testing GKE. It's GCE or something along the lines of that. And if we are, then we'll figure that out, because SIG Scalability won't accept a managed Kubernetes offering.
No, it's GCE. It's GCE.
Yeah. Cool.
Sorry, that's my bad. I keep
No, it's okay.
getting
It's all good.
to get it.
I just wanted to see if there's something we need to track. Great, that's it.
Yeah. So go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think one of the things I was looking forward to with this context is I'm wondering if we can. So one of the things that has been difficult with the current issue was to get iteration on the code that was added for the perf scale side of things, and I'm wondering if folks from this group would be interested in joining like as a reviewer of the specific code in DRA in perf and scale that is related to DRA. I think what it will help on is it will help us iterate faster on each features and kind of only bother SIG scalability when we are changing some of the core things and not ping them anytime there is a DRA related fix. So as a first person, I can volunteer to take that responsibility. I was looking for like 1 or 2 more such volunteers. If we have that, I think that'll set us on the right path of putting all of these features in scale testing.
I mean, that sounds great to me. We'll have to get SIG Scalability's buy-in on that. But so if there's anybody else who wants to participate and reach out to Olay, please.
Olay, should we just start with John, you, and myself, because we've been doing the test infra stuff? That might be a sensible start.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm still yet to float this idea by SIG Scalability, like John was suggesting, but I just wanted to get that conversation going here.
John H, by the way.
What's that?
Just clarifying, I meant John H. That's not E in this.
Sure, sounds great to me. And whatever I can do to help, happy to do that. Awesome. Then anything else? By the way, for folks, you keep adding suggestions. If you're in the workgroup device management mailing list, you should have edit access to this document. Maybe even if you're in. Here, how did I do this? That might be a little bit better. All right. Anything else, folks? Gaurav.
Since I see Jack here, I did want to bring up that thing that we were discussing, Jack, regarding DRA. So for the others context, I was testing out auto scaling with DRA-based API, and a lot of it is working great. Thanks a lot for actually implementing that. One thing which I observed was that, for example, if my resource claim requests a very unique request a device with a very specific, let's say, like if I'm requesting a network device, I request a network device with a very specific MAC address. And let's say it gets satisfied for the current pod. Let's say I create another pod using the same resource claim template, which means it is requesting the exact same MAC address. So obviously it won't get satisfied. This at least autoscaler observes that, okay, because it cannot get satisfied, but it sees that the nodes have those particular devices. It tries to scale up the nodes, thinking that maybe if it actually scales up the nodes, it will be able to satisfy that exact request. But in this case, because we are finding that exact MAC address, we are never able to find it and we continue scaling. I actually don't see a good solution for this on the implementation side. So does this mean this is a user misconfiguration and we treat it as such? Or
No, this sounds like a bug. I would call that a bug.
okay.
Have we filed an issue in? So I assume you're talking about the cluster autoscaler, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Is there an issue in the autoscaler?
No, not yet.
Describing this?
I'll describe it, sure. But when I was thinking of a solution, I actually couldn't think of how we can actually do it any better without making some changes to the API, which allow us to express this thing that, okay, some device attributes are like just properties and some are like unique to that specific device. For example, like some could be describing a characteristic of a device which could hold true for other nodes as well. Maybe something like what kind of a network device it is. This could
and you're
hold
saying that the expression, the DRA expression that you're describing cannot be distinguished which one of those two it is? Basically, by introspecting the description, you can't tell if it's...
No, you cannot. Like right now, there's just attributes and all attributes are treated similarly. So it's very well possible for you to say you are looking for a particular characteristic, or it's possible for you to say you're looking for a particular named device. So that is not distinguishable right now.
So we would need a metadata attribute on top of the attribute.
Yes. If we were to solve
auto scaling or something, I don't know what the right. I mean, that's a possible solution, right? It's a schema. The other option is by convention, right? So autoscaler says if it's MAC address, IP address, UUID, list of 10 things, attribute names, or contains this string, I will ignore it.
I don't know about that. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, things that like would only be expressed by a reasonable. You can only reasonably explain it by saying the uniqueness is so sufficient that can't possibly be something that would be reusable. Anyway,
but
I don't know.
The other thing we have to worry about, and this is even probably harder, and I don't know if it's solvable, is that these are used in expressions. So the expression could be MAC address not equal to, right? In which case it's almost always satisfiable. Or it could be in a complex expression with 7 Booleans and, a set operation. Like at some point we're screwed. We've created enough power to
yeah, I would say let's be optimistic and say we're not screwed, but we rely upon really well published guidance to aid folks how to pair advanced DRA use cases with autoscalers.
That's
it's
not much nicer way of saying that. Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do think your use.
So I feel like this is also something like you were saying, something that we can try solving through documentation. That okay, if you are looking for proper auto scaling support, then you should be matching devices based on their actual characteristics and not specific UIDs or stuff like that. But how does one properly document this and make it publicly known, very well known? It's a problem.
Well, Gaurav, could you express your MAC address as a unique expression so it's a little bit more it's less ergonomic from a user perspective, but it might be able to aid an autoscaler in understanding that this expression is calling for a unique reservation against the device. And then an autoscaler could simply introspect the existing cluster and say, is there already a reservation against this unique device? And if so, then to ignore it and say, I can't do anything with this pending pod. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
So
Could we
by
convert it into an expression, like a unique device expression?
So what would a unique device expression mean? Are you trying to say perhaps maybe instead of using a resource claim template, you use a resource claim? That is the closest that I can understand. Or
We could probably table this, but
Yeah.
I was more thinking, is there a cell expression that would express this?
So I think what you could do right now, the cell expressions see a bunch of attributes, and those attributes have no semantic meaning to the cell expression. But and because they're expressions, not just simple attributes, automatically calculating a semantic meaning of like this is for a unique device or not.
Yeah, there's only one of these in the world. So if someone already has it, then I can't get it.
But I think you're onto something with like, could we characterize the whole claim as being for a specific device as opposed to for a class of devices? And that's sort of a pain for like, I think there's something to discuss here. So Gaurav, maybe it's the place to start as an issue, and then or even a doc, and like, I don't know if we can, there's a lot of discussion to have, I think, on this. And different approaches we can use to reduce the risk. But in the end, right, we've created a system with a lot of power, and there's always little edges where the people can cut themselves. And yeah, so, but let's see what we can do to make those, put some guardrails on it.
Sounds good. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, shall we give 10 minutes back? All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great couple weeks.
Thanks, Sean.